Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined by JJ Bull.
Hello, Joe.
Who says he's getting ill.
Yes, I'm declining.
Excellent. Okay, fine. And John McKenzie.
Hello.
Who's making me feel ill.
Oh,
yeah. Alas. You might have noticed if you're watching us that we're back here on video. I don't actually have the details, but we're on YouTube.
What channel are we on?
I think we are on a channel that's now called the Tifo podcast channel, I believe. I don't really know. I've sort of decided it in my head, but then we had Christmas and New Year, and I can't recall. All I know is that it is in video. So if you're listening to this and you're one of those people that's been annoyingly complaining for months about the fact that there's nothing to watch, then welcome back. Come on down to YouTube and you'll be able to look at me staring you in the eyes with the kind of contempt that I hope you can really feel and take home with you. Also, another update. The corporate overlords at the Athletic have foisted upon us because we're too cool and rebellious. Guess who they've brought back, gang? It's the old man in blue. It's the police officer of the podcast world. It's the guy who wants to snuffle out fun wherever he can find it and stop it and kill the fun. It's Steve Hankey. Hey, Steve.
Hello, everyone.
You all right? How's it going?
I'm well.
Good. Well, we're pleased to have Steve Hankey back. Steve is now a producer. We've also got Rachel Tinde today helping us on video.
Hi, all.
Yes, hello. So it's a fantastic affair, and there's so much going on to discuss today. The docket is heaving in the new year. 2025, you would have thought, would the docket lighten up? Would anything get off the docket over the new year period? Nothing left the docket, partly because I forgot to empty the docket over the... It's a shame when they only come once every 2 weeks for the bins, isn't it? But here's what we talked about today. Liverpool, Manchester United, what a fantastic game. Very exciting game of football. Difficult one for John to analyse. I enjoyed teasing him about that over the weekend. Within that game, we talk about Manuel Ugarte, we talk about Kobbie Mainoo, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Lots of topics to discuss there. We played the midway game after talking about Tottenham and Newcastle, Newcastle's midfield three, and how we have no idea how good or not Tottenham are, why that might be the case. We also played Points Are Bad at the end of this episode. Stick around for that one because the fixtures that we chose to predict for, or I should say Uncle Damien chose to predict for in the pre-Christmas episode, they've really scuppered us. A lot of points added there, bad points. And also, we talk, very briefly about Arsenal, and we play the game. What was the game
the brand
called?
New game. Yeet a ton of money on...
the Yeet a ton of money transfer game, which is a game that we're sort of working out how it's a game as we are playing.
I feel like JJ didn't really get into the spirit of that game.
He wasn't in the spirit of that game. He was in the spirit of the Points Are Bad game. You got to. I mean, one of his predictions.
I think I'm in the spirit of the game.
You were dipping a toe into the game to
work
out.
No, but the game can't be that you think that player is good, therefore that team should buy them. Because there's no parameters. Because then you can just name anyone in the world to go anywhere.
But I think the thing about the game is it's a game of emotions. It's a game of feeling.
Aberdeen should buy Pedri.
It's whether something feels right. Do you know, one of the best birthday presents I ever received was my 30th birthday. My sister, who's a fantastic illustrator, Alice, she works for Tifo. I don't know why I'm telling you. You know that.
I've met Alice, actually.
Yeah. Do you know that game, Guess Who?
I do.
Which is the little game where you've got the tiles and the faces, and you ask questions of your opponent. You flip them down as you go, and in theory, you're there with the last person. What Alice did for me was she illustrated all people in my life, and then bought a game of Guess Who and slipped the illustrations in. So
good.
The game I have is with all people I know from a time in my life. Half of them I don't speak to anymore, but not because nothing happened. I just it's busy. I'm busy. A lot of them are family members. Anyway, Guess Who is a very simple game, and it's fun to play as an adult until you realise that it's a process of elimination. If they've got glasses, that's only 5 people. It's quite boring. So when I play this version of Guess Who with my wife, our rules are you can only ask questions where the answer is a feeling. And so it's a little vague. And so 75% of the time, no one wins because you accidentally put the wrong person down. but it's great fun. I would say, for example, when you look at this person, do you feel like you would be more than 50% likely to want to go to the cinema with them, for example? And
I like
then
that.
my
That's
wife
good
would
game.
answer,
Yeah.
and on the basis of that, so it's about perception, isn't it? And that's what I feel like this game can be.
You asking like her what she would feel like, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I have to guess what I think she would feel like. So in this instance, in the Yeet a Ton of Money transfer game, I want it to be a game of feelings. I want to be able to say to you, this Yeet a Ton,
it feels
of
right
money,
as well, right?
And I want
That's
you to go, yes, that feels right. It
Yeah.
feels right. It's not about efficiency. It's not about thinking. It's not about intellectual ideas. It's about whether it feels right in your craw,
my craw.
In your craw.
What the hell's a craw?
It's a that's a core.
That's a crow.
Mine's a craw. It goes, you get stuck in your craw, and something gets stuck in your craw. It's like your throat. It's like
He is in fact right. I regret to
Is
inform
that
you.
like a
That's the thing. It's a
term?
word. I mean, it's about your throat, so I guess so.
Stuck in your craw. Origin. Synonym. Oh no, hang on. Let me just.
Synonym.
When and where did the expression "stuck in my craw" come from? The expression "stuck in my craw" has its origins in the early 19th century and is derived from the word craw, which refers to the part of the bird's digestive system.
So it is birdie.
Where the food is stored before it's digested. The phrase is used to metaphorically describe something that is difficult to accept or causes irritation, much like food that gets stuck in a bird's craw. So it's in this sort of area here, before they're ready to swallow.
So the things I am saying are annoying, like when a bird can't digest food.
No, what I was saying was, instead of it, I want it to feel right in your gut, I want it to feel right in your craw. I want there to feel like there are no medical issues with your craw.
I understand.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Whether or not there are medical issues with your craw, I want it to feel like there aren't.
I think what the listeners and viewers will recognise when we come to this part of the show is that
the intro.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, right, then we get to that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the intro, though.
I think
still
I
in
get
the
it,
intro,
yeah.
aren't we? Where are we? At what
We're
point
in the
are
intro,
we?
yeah.
And I think applying the parameters that I want to set to it does make sense within the crawness.
If they're feelings...
I still think there has to be a degree of it makes sense, right? You can't just say anyone can go anywhere.
Steve's telling us to speed up.
Yeah,
like
but
0%
that's what
craw
Steve
to
does.
100% craw.
Do you know when Steve tells you to speed, it makes me want to take longer?
Yeah,
Is that how it makes you feel?
I think so too, yeah.
Because what power does he really have over us?
What's he
You
going to
put a
do?
percentage on
What's the worst that he could do?
Well, where else to begin, of course, than with Liverpool 2 to Manchester United. Manchester United, they've been awful, haven't they? I mean, they had the worst December, I think. They had the worst calendar month that they've ever had. That's not true.
Since records began.
I'm doing my job really badly. It wasn't since records began, it was since the 30s or something.
Since at some point.
6 losses in December. And yet they showed up in this game against Liverpool at Anfield. They looked really up for it, for want of a better term. They won a lot of their duels, didn't they? I wonder, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of some of the games that happened under Ten Hag, some of the games that happened under Solskjaer, where they came up against opponents of a higher calibre, and they did surprisingly well. Is that theme there, or am I just kind of drawing a conclusion with no evidence?
No, I think it's definitely there. The tactical outcome of the game versus the performance outcome, because I think Manchester United performed really well. But from a tactical point of view, I think there's a lot of people reading into the game things that maybe shouldn't be read into the game, because obviously a performance and a result against Liverpool looks great on paper, right? And that's, on the one hand, I think, absolutely celebrate getting a point off Liverpool. There's not many teams who've been able to do that for a very long time. But I think that people using it as almost a benchmark for where United should be under Ruben Amorim, maybe missing some of the tactical implications a little bit, because I feel as though, as you say, we've seen this game happen many times this season, even. We saw Manchester United beat Man City in the FA Cup at the end of last season. That was albeit a Manchester City who have gone on to become much more fragile, but at that point, had won the league. And I think for me, the benchmark for where Amorim should be at is not these kind of games, right? It's great that he's got them galvanised for these kind of performances. It's great that the structures are in place for them to be able to defend well. But again, this was very much a game where Manchester United were playing underdog football, and that's their forte, I think, with the profile of players that they have. And I think both Amorim and some of the players actually came out of the game and said it's great that we can play in these kind of games, but we need to be able to do this consistently against teams like Southampton, as well as against teams like against Manchester City and Arsenal, who I think were the other two standout performances under Ruben Amorim. So yeah, I think it's an interesting fixture because you want to come out of it feeling as though, and often fans do come out and think this is the new dawn, everything's turned around. That happened after the Arsenal game to an extent, happened after the City game to an extent, and those games were then followed up by worse performances against worse teams. So yeah, for me, what I want to see more evidence of to really feel as though Amorim is implementing his ideas is I guess more of a control aspect when they're playing against teams where they need to stay on top of just the possession and the play and make sure that they're winning those games with a level of consistency.
That feels like quite a key point, doesn't it, JJ? Because this game, whilst very, very fun, it felt like a really good example of one of those football games where although Liverpool weren't playing well, as a team, they still probably created more opportunities from the tactical upside that they did have, right? Them not winning, or if they had lost the game, it wouldn't have been Arne Slot's fault, is what I'm saying, because it seems as though, from a team perspective, that they did have advantages and opportunities. They just individually didn't play very well. Whereas Manchester United, maybe they didn't have those advantages tactically, but the players won every single tackle, every single duel. They just threw themselves into it. They played better as human beings.
Yes. But then that's the same as saying, like, any team who loses isn't the manager's fault if the players don't play as well as they should do, isn't it?
No, because for example, if I'd watched that game and I'd seen that Liverpool had made like a huge tactical error because they'd played Trent off the pitch, but that's where Slot told him to be.
An upside down goalkeeper.
It doesn't matter how good the other players play. There's only 10 of them left because Trent is in Row Z, right? So it's all over already. You would say, well, that's the coach's fault, But in this instance, it seemed as though, from the most part, the Liverpool, in theory, on paper, had the opportunity, had the advantages to take advantage of. They simply just didn't take advantage of them as individual players. They were really off the boil, I thought.
Yeah, but then I thought that was because the first half United were really hard to play against. So a lot of it was they were hard to play against, and they were pretty hugely aggressive out of possession, but I thought they were just decent. Like, they were okay, organised. It's hard to break them down. Maybe Liverpool weren't as fired up as they could have been. Maybe it's that. I don't think you're going to see any tactical errors really from Slot. That would be so obvious they couldn't immediately fix them within 5 minutes or so. I think the Premier League, I've watched a lot of Scottish football this season, and you can really see the difference, like, tactically, and how quickly things change in the Premier League compared to it.
Right.
And I think
it takes 7 game weeks.
I mean, it even happened in this game, in that I think in the first minute there's a scenario where Liverpool weren't able to track the wing back. Obviously, Manchester United using a wing back system, and a lot of teams don't use wing back systems. So in the first minute, there was one moment where Man United managed to actually progress the ball through the wing back because Trent didn't jump up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alexander-Arnold. Sorry, JJ.
Thank you.
Didn't jump up, and they ended up just leaving him free. That very quickly changed, and clearly someone said to him, "Come on, we know what we've been practicing all week. Make sure you're doing
what we've been tasked with."
Yeah. So I think that these things do happen within like 5 minutes, especially when it comes to things like out of possession approaches. If there's any glaring weakness where you're leaving a free player, coaches, one, smart enough to see that, and two, smart enough to be able to get the players to fix it straight away.
The first half, United were quite deep, and they weren't really able to produce anything attacking wise. I think the numbers even show it. Liverpool were just really on top in the first half. Technically, they just couldn't create chances. You don't want to risk it because then United can break on them.
According to the XG, right?
So I think that's what I saw. One of those graphs where there's lines that go up, and it looked like
a line graph.
Yes,
yeah.
I believe that's what they call them.
Yeah.
Or if we're only using first names now, a line.
A line.
And so in the second half, what happened was I think Amorim just told them to be more aggressive on the ball, and they pushed the wing back. The left wing back especially went really high. I don't know if it's to focus on Trent Alexander-Arnold particularly, but they had like that was a real thing. They kept going up that left side, and because the left side wing back was pushing up was Dallo, then Martinez was pushing up high as well, so he was snapping into stuff in midfield. So he just had them more aggressive, and it made them. They just looked better in that second half.
Yeah.
But then, like John was saying this morning to me, that what he noticed from it was that all of United's attacks came from when Liverpool went direct rather than being controlled, which is interesting because it's more like what Klopp was doing.
Yeah, I just made a video actually. Did you notice on it? All of their. So there's just 3 set pieces that generated chances, I think, and then Dallo had a long shot. The rest of the chances all came from playing really direct. So a couple of those chances came from Manchester United just playing the ball directly over the top and either winning second. So the second goal comes from them playing the ball long, the second ball coming down, and then Manchester United winning it and then playing it through to Garnacho, who then sets up Ahmad. But then over, I think it's about 0.55 XG of 1.05 XG according to Opta. I know that's
0.5 XG of 1.05. So almost half of it.
Yeah, over half of it came from.
That's under half, but okay.
0.55 of 0.55 of 1.05. Yeah,
just over half of their XG. That's what John McKenzie's trying to say. Just over half of the XG created by Manchester United.
That came from
open play, John? Was it?
It was an open play, but it came from turnovers after fairly risky passes by Liverpool players, which I thought was quite interesting because we've been talking all season about how Liverpool have been so good this season at actually controlling games, especially when they're in winning game states as well. And that didn't happen so much. But again, as JJ says, in part that's down to I think Manchester United really just the intensity they were playing at just forced the game to be a little bit more frenetic, made it chaotic.
About that in the first 5 minutes, wasn't there? United, when they came out, they just sort of dived into a lot of tackles. They had a much better start than I think everyone in the stadium was expecting. And it felt as though the impact it had on Liverpool's players was maybe just a bit of okay.
Do you know what, though? If Liverpool had scored in the first 5 minutes, I think they would have just fallen apart.
Sure.
Like, 100% convinced. And you can take all the goods out of it because, I want to say goods, I mean good plural.
Sure.
Rather than, you're not taking away their products.
No, you wouldn't want to take away their goods. No, I mean, in some cases you would. I've been in some of the stores, the superstores of these clubs, and many of the goods are good. Some of them are less good.
Most of them are nonsense plastic that will be buried into the earth one day.
A lot of plastic. Hey, did you see that they discovered a bacteria that can consume plastic now?
That sounds quite scary, to be honest.
Scary?
Well, plastic is quite tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a bacteria that can eat plastic sounds like it could cause us problems too.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I guess it sounds like it would be good for the world. Now I'm just thinking about what sort of horror films you might be into. John McKenzie's horror classic, The Bacteria That Eats Plastic.
What's the film where they kill the aliens with shampoo?
Oh,
Toy Story.
No. It's got a smiley face on the...
Evolution.
Evolution.
Yeah. That film, yeah? That's such a stupid film, that one. Alas. Okay. I'm being hurried along by Steve Hankey. Right. Now, where next to go? Oh, something we should say about Manchester United. What they did well, JJ Bull.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say something on that, yeah.
Mainu and Ugarte, Kobe Mainu and Manuel Ugarte, isn't it? Yes. They played together in midfield. They had what I thought was maybe their first really good game together. A lot of United's good play either went through them or was started by them winning the ball back. Lots of nice ball carries from Mainu as well. What did you think watching them? Was it promising?
Well, I was going to come on to this actually. Like, you take all the good out of it because they've done really well. I think actually people go past Mainu all the time way too easily, and I don't think he's going to be able to play. Not forever, but like right now, I don't think he's the solution to playing as a 2 in midfield. I think he's not. I think that too many teams go past him. He isn't like aggressive enough out of possession. He's not big enough. And I think in a 2, you need to have. It's useful having what he's good at is, I think, being better in the final third and carrying the ball and being quite nifty in small tight spaces. But I think what you want is just someone more physical. I think in that slot, especially.
Could it be because of his age, maybe?
I think so. He's really young. Remember that. And if they had like a top tier player in their peak age, which they should have in centre midfield, as Man United or any Premier League team, and they don't, they're playing like a real youngster who I don't think is quite at the same level as many. Like, he's played the England level and is clearly a good player and will be a good player, but I think he lacks a lot right now what you might want to have in a midfield too, especially. And I think when you don't have that power, people go past you, and that can be an issue. Otherwise, you need to have people stepping up behind him if he's drifting forward. I saw a couple of other, doing a lot of research just now on United for sensible transfers coming up. And lots of other people making videos about it have said that they think Manu might be better placed higher up the pitch as one of the two attacking midfielders. You know, the ones that go in the higher slots,
right.
Can go wide. I don't agree necessarily, but I do think he's more of an advanced playmaker probably, rather than being deeper. I think that's probably where you get the best out of him, which is not the right profile for there. In fact, as part of my research, I thought this was really interesting. I was looking for a player who'd be really good, to have good defensive quality, good defensive quantity.
Rodri.
No.
Oh.
I mean, he would be quite good.
Yeah.
I don't think they can get him just now.
Probably not.
But so using a thing called Smarter Scout, which is a thing we use quite a lot, and you can identify players based on their attributes and their stats and things like that. And I looked for the perfect midfielder based on defensive work rate and quality, attacking output, and general what I was looking for is kind of a physical, ball winning, but also semi-creative midfielder.
You know where he's going, right?
Do you know who comes up?
Yeah, of course. No, don't even say it. Everyone listening knows where you're going.
Who?
Scott McTominay.
No.
Oh, I thought he was doing a kind of Scottish thing. I thought it's Christmas, he's been back home. I thought he'd come back with the...
He's better out of the pitch though, but he's the same as Manu. Mason Mount.
Oh, yeah.
So his 21-22 season at Chelsea pops up straight away as the only one in the parameters I had. If I'd widened them more, would have come up, but that was exactly what I was looking for in this search. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. Because he already plays for Manchester United.
Well, sometimes, yeah.
So, he's injured again, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Himself.
It was a real shame to get injured last time.
Well, I'm just going to press you one more time, because the question was, I thought Kobe Manu and Agate had a good game, and you immediately went on to say how Kobe Manu is. But do you feel that way that you feel because not specifically because of this game, right? Because you didn't watch this game and think he was bad in this game. I thought he was pretty good in this game.
I didn't think he was bad, but I think people rave about him because honestly, I think a lot of it's because he's the new kid on the block. I think he's really good. I don't think he's quite the superstar elite tier that people keep talking about. And that's not his fault, and I think he will be a good player. But we've had it a lot of times with players come through at Man United. Everyone's like, oh, he's amazing. He is clearly very good. But I don't know if he's there. In a 3, I think he'd be decent. I thought he was okay against Liverpool. Sometimes he was good in the ball. I think there was far too much out of possession where he's just not quite there. He can be coached on that, but you can't really coach someone to be more of a aggressive physical threat, I think.
Sure. Okay. Well, what about Ugarte though, John? Because I think it was his first properly, seemingly good or above average game, and obviously he played at Sporting under Amorim before. So one of the things that fans were excited about was the notion that there's already a player that he has liked and has shone enough to be bought by PSG during his time. So what did you think of his performance next to Manu?
Yeah, people think of Ugarte as being a fairly combative midfielder, right? But I think in this game he really showed what he's good at on the ball as well. I think this game again, it's a little bit of an outlier for me insofar as I think what was expected of the midfielders was very clear. It was very much a case of you win the ball back and then you either carry the ball to try and pull the opponent apart, run into those spaces and then move it on.
Which they did very well.
Yeah.
That's what Manu was good at as well, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the time then, as we've said, it's about going direct. So I think the task for the two central midfielders were quite nicely set because they were relatively man-to-man on their opponents. And with the knowledge that behind them, one of the outside centre-backs would probably step up to cover either Diaz or Jones dropping. Actually, it wasn't Diaz or Jones.
It was Jones in the first.
It was Jones. Yeah, who was playing in the central? It was Diaz as the striker as well, though. Yeah. So the two of them drop off variously. That allows the centre backs to follow them, and that means essentially you are, effectively playing with a 3-man midfield. But you can rotate either side, and it should be fine. So I think that you give them a very clear task, and they both performed it quite well. But yeah, I think Ugarte really impressed because of both his ability, I think, under a lot of pressure at times against Liverpool, which is I think the criticism has been of him that he isn't as good in those scenarios where he has to operate in tight spaces. But I thought again he worked fine in that game. But again, it's a good example of when you give your midfielders a clear task for what to do, and given that a few times what we saw is that one of them stepping in, intercepting the ball, moving the ball on, and then playing it into a teammate, all very I think very well structured and very slick, quick passing. That sort of style of play suits them. The question again is what happens in those games where you are expected to control the ball a little bit more as a midfield, especially with a two-man midfield where you're not relying on your centre-back stepping out basically to make a three-man midfield out of possession. So yeah, I thought it was a really positive showing from both the midfielders. But again, how representative is that of what we're going to see more often from Manchester United?
Well, a player that had a bad game was Trent Alexander-Arnold. He wasn't the only one, but he did stand out, I would say, in the second half. Let me ask you this, JJ. Liverpool's defensive performance wasn't bad just because of him, though, was it? But it wasn't helped by him.
I think he had a bad game, yes,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But that can happen to him. United were definitely targeting that side in the second half, and in fact, like spoken to coaches who've worked in Premier League before and asked whether teams they've worked for have targeted him, and they say no, they don't do that. I don't believe it. I think teams definitely indirectly.
United almost always play down the left anyway, but
I know, but you can. So either you can focus on that side and hope you can get an advantage by taking him on 1v1 or 2v1, or you focus play on the other side and hook it to the back post, knowing that you can try and, like Fulham did that once with Mitrovic, just hooking it to the back post, then he can body him at the back post. But defending is a team game. It starts from the front.
It does. I mean, I guess the thing that made it stand out as a bad game was that I think if Diogo Dalot is running around you with the ball on his weak foot, not. I don't think that's good for any defender, regardless of whether you have the incredible quality of Trent Alexander-Arnold or not.
For sure. Also, remember that the player that's in front of Alexander-Arnold and has been his entire career is Mo Salah, who doesn't do an awful lot of defending. But you get a lot of good from leaving him to do whatever the hell he wants. You just let him do what he wants, and you'll be all right. That's probably relevant as well.
He's a bit more exposed.
I think as well. Yeah, there's a tactical element to that. So obviously, as JJ is saying, they like to keep Salah higher up because he then can benefit from transitional moments because he's closer to the goal. But it meant that you then have the question of who deals with the wing back, who deals with Dalot. And as I said already earlier on, right at the beginning of the game, there's a moment where Dalot gets the ball just completely free because Trent is supposed to jump up.
Yeah.
And then when he jumps up, he leaves Fernandes, and then Gravenberch is supposed to drift across and cover Fernandes. So what we saw quite a lot of in the game was Manchester United trying to keep Dalot slightly deeper in the field because that means Trent has further to travel to press him, and because of that then you almost have the advantage of playing the channel ball into Fernandes because you expect him to be ahead of Gravenberch. So I thought quite a lot of Manchester United's attacks came through that space precisely because of the tactical reality of how they were trying to defend. That said, as you mentioned before, there's a few moments where they aren't under that kind of tension and Trent just doesn't track his player at all and seems very reticent to sort of get into. I think for both of the goals, I mean, the first goal he plays a fairly risky pass and then drops into the centre back spot and doesn't do a huge amount to track Fernandes when he comes inside. And the second, what was the second goal? Garnacho went through that. He went through that area as well. I actually thought it didn't seem as though many people were talking about it, but incredibly poorly defended by Liverpool. Yeah. It felt like there was about 7 or 8 Liverpool players in the box and very few, like 2 Manchester United players.
I mean, it was also a weak foot cross in from Garnacho from a position that he shouldn't have made it into the box anyway.
Yeah,
and then there was just loads of space.
But it's the way that worked. That whole thing was all. There's lots of tactical stuff to that as well. Like Garnacho comes on and is swapping. So they had Dalot and Garnacho kind of swapping line. So they are either wide or in half space and they're swapping around a lot. That's one part of it. But to get the space at the penalty spot, so they're trying to get a cut back to the penalty spot to score it. So Højlund takes players to the front post by running across it, knowing he won't probably get the ball to him, which then creates the space. The pass that Garnacho
it takes
makes...
like 4 players, though.
But they're dropping deep, so maybe they're switching off. So that's part's bad. But also, there's a tiny deflection on Garnacho's cross that takes it just behind the defenders, which is where Ahmad gets in to finish it off, I think.
Bit of bad luck as well.
Yeah, so that's all planned. So that's like a thing Amram wants is Ahmad to come off the wing to come in to finish in the middle of the box on a penalty spot. They want Højlund to run across the front post to take players away so there is space at the penalty spot for the cutback. Yeah. And they want Garnacho and Dalot to be intertwining basically so they can someone's there to put the ball in. I think Garnacho was great at being direct and going to create that space as well.
They want Dalot and Garnacho to be intertwinings, like in the T.
If you combine more players together, they become more powerful, like a Megazord. So eventually, if you combine a lot of them, you lose territory and like space coverage, but you do have a much taller, stronger creature.
I do think in that situation, though, given the amount of coverage Liverpool have, they'll look at that and think we should have done better in that scenario defending it.
Sure.
And I think
also they're down. Let's kick them. Come on. There's been very few opportunities.
Yeah, that's true.
Steve Hankey's nodding. Very few opportunities this season.
Can
to
I
kick
remind
Liverpool.
you?
They were bad.
Can I remind you that I got slated for pointing out a quote that Arne Slot made, where he said, "Yes, sometimes our press isn't great, but it doesn't matter because in those moments where we have to recover from those situations, we're defending really well." And precisely the reason why I picked up on that was because I felt as though when that stops happening, when your players don't actually defend in the way that they should do in those deeper moments, it results in goals, and that's precisely what's happened here.
But the public didn't like it, did they?
They didn't
and they
like
were
it.
baying for blood.
They
came for your throat, you know? But you
They
managed to evade them and come back and say, I told you so.
This is the thing. If you have weaknesses in this league, it will get punished, and
true.
That's an example of it.
I love it when a weakness is punished, as everyone in my personal life knows. Anyway, we'll be back after this short break when we'll talk about Tottenham Hotspur and Newcastle United. Great. I mean, there wasn't a break for people watching on video. You just get to watch me scratching my armpit. One of the great pleasures of watching the Tifo.
That's a nice jumper you've got there, Joe.
Thanks. Now, I visited Sebastian Stafford-Bloor in Hamburg. Very great city. Lovely place. I did go in the middle of December. It's probably my fault. Went to the Milan Tor, just outside, to look at it, the St. Pauli Stadium.
Oh, that's what the Milan Tor is?
Yeah.
Sounds like a monster.
The Milan Tor Stadion. Next to it, there's a delightful, weirdly architectural World War II bunker.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of that, but not the stadium.
Great bunker. No, I didn't care about the stadium, but I looked at the bunker, and there was a big telephone tower. Anyway, I was getting back to Hamburg Airport, you see, JJ, and my body, through sweating, I was very unwell. I went to stay with Seb. I was so ill. I think I've diseased everyone in Germany. But I'd been sweating and I was really stinky, smelly, you know? So I thought I'm going to have to buy some new clothes at the airport, change into them immediately before I get on this plane. Seb recommended this store to me. I don't know if this has ever happened to you before, but as soon as I walked in, I saw Seb's entire wardrobe. Like everything the man has ever worn is in this store. This jumper I'm wearing now is the only thing that I had in my size. I bought it thinking, it's just for a plane journey. But now I like it because I feel like the lightness of the colour reflects the kind of personality that I have.
Yeah.
You know? Do you
The
know what I mean?
lightness of your soul.
You're coming over to my side.
Yeah. And it makes me want to go, like that.
But the store that Seb buys all his clothes from is inside the airport.
Oh, well, there's a branch of it, a franchise of it inside
I see.
the airport. Yeah, but it's a franchise store. I don't know if it's a franchise store. I don't know what I'm saying. It's a store. Delightful store. Anyway, I had a great time in Hamburg. Thanks for having me, Seb. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur 1-2 Newcastle United. Now, this was quite a fun game. It was the first one, was it, on Saturday? I believe it was. I enjoyed that. A great start to the weekend. First question I have for you, John, the thing I'm most curious about here, Newcastle's midfield trio, obviously they won the game, although it was a bit tight and they looked like the second best team for big portions of the second half. But I thought Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, that's a really interesting makeup of a midfield three. It works kind of well, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe JJ should talk about this because you've just made a short on this, have you?
I did, but you'll say the same things I was going to say anyway, so I don't mind.
No, you say.
Let's say that yes, but they have.
I
played...
can do it if you want. I'll go.
Do you want to do it? Yeah.
Yeah. That one of them's a big lad. One of them costs a lot of money and is probably going to leave at some point, and the other one is Tonali, and I know that he's overrated because I spent a lot of time with John, who doesn't like him. That's a joke.
Wow.
Not you don't like him, but all that you said was that you thought that maybe he's the kind of player that people have perhaps expectations of that are above and beyond what he's capable of achieving.
Yeah, just that. Yeah,
Just
merely
that.
that. Merely
like
that.
Maybe you should just quickly say, before you I want to hear what you say about Tonali,
Okay, yeah.
but just very quickly because I feel like I've libelled you. I've
Yeah,
slandered
you.
you.
It's not the first time, Joe. I'm just impressed that you've actually accepted your flaw.
Yeah, but just say what it is that you actually think.
I just think it was an overpay on the part of Newcastle, and I think represented a kind of player that people thought he was someone who he wasn't, and now they're like, yeah, well, we'll play him as a defensive midfielder, and it'll probably work out.
That's what it was. Yeah. Okay. So JJ, go on. Then you take this one. The midfield trio, Newcastle's exciting triangle. I don't know.
I mean, they've played together before quite a few times.
Yeah, but not in front of me. I watched it for the first time.
No, they would have done. It's before Tonali got banned.
No. I'm just saying I hadn't seen them.
No, but you probably did.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
You definitely did.
I can't remember the last time.
But there was a difference in how they're organised now, because ever since losing to Brentford, in fact, he did try it against Liverpool, but since losing to Brentford, Newcastle have won 6 games in a row, and it's all down to many things. But one of them is they've moved Tonali backwards, and they've put Guimaraes further forward. So although Guimaraes does still drop in to help with build-up and deep progression and stuff like that, Tonali is the deeper player now. So you've got a makeup of Joe Linton, the ball winner. You've got Tonali is probably like a deep-lying playmaker, and then you've got Guimaraes as more of just a general centre mid or an advanced one. Who can go for a general, yeah. He's just a general. He can go forward, and then so they shoot more, they score more. More touches in the opposition box now since making it. Because Guimaraes is like one of the best players in the league. He's one of the best players in Europe. Like he'd be playing anywhere, and that's why Newcastle are doing really well. They've got a player as good as that. I rate Tonali. I think he's decent. I think he's not fantastic in the final third, and that kind of plays out over his statistics over his whole career. He's not the best in the final third. So you take him out of that, and when you play him deep, he can he's quite big and physical, but he's quick enough, and he can see danger and anticipate it, and then cut it out.
He can see danger.
He can see,
like as a visualization.
It's
or
his
is it a
superpower.
Colour?
No, yeah, exactly. It's sort of like not a spider sense, but he knows when danger's happening.
That would be devastating.
He's not alerted to like a building on fire or anything like that.
I think the fun thing about danger is that danger's always a potential until it. I mean, that's when something's a state of danger, it's the potential that something might happen, right? So in theory, danger is infinite. At least that's how I feel when I walk outside my house and look around. There could be danger anywhere for any possible reason.
And now there's that plastic eating bacteria out there. There's another level of danger.
Another level of danger. So if you were to visualize and see danger superpower like as a red color or something, everything would be red all the time. It's terrifying, wouldn't it?
Perhaps it is, but then if he were to act on that, he'd be preventing thought crimes, which is
right.
I mean, I don't know what your take
That's
on
like
that
Minority
is.
Report.
Exactly, you don't want that really. That becomes like a 1984 situation, and I think Tonali should stay out of that personally.
He'd make quite a good Tom Cruise though. Or if Tom Cruise was going to play any Premier League footballer, maybe Tonali. You could get the hair right.
There's probably better options. He's quite small, isn't he, Cruise? So.
Who does Tom Cruise most look like as a football player?
Would you mean like
which football player most looks like Tom
He's
Cruise?
got a good run on him, hasn't he, Tom Cruise?
He does, but I feel like football players don't run like that.
He runs in every movie he's in, I think. He has a stipulation that he has to run
it's
or something.
It's a terrific run.
It's a very good run.
It
there must be a footballer
really
who runs like that, though, surely.
But without the ball, I suppose. But I don't know, I feel like footballers are kind of lean forward a lot more when they run. Whereas
he's got
Tom,
a very
he almost
sort of
seems to lean
upright.
backwards, doesn't he?
John McGinn has an interesting run.
Yeah.
He looks like he's just jumped out of a helicopter whenever he runs anyway. He sort of gets his head down. It looks like he's carrying a backpack.
I saw a guy do I'd never seen this before, a football impression on TikTok of Phil Foden. He played he played through various different football examples. I don't know. He kept receiving the ball and taking someone on. And he would take on the body shape of Phil Foden. It was immaculate. It was very, very impressive. I'd never really noticed before. But Phil Foden does have quite a unique running style, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a few people who could do little videos like that. They're quite good. Yeah. Raheem Sterling's an obvious one to do as well.
Sure.
Runs a bit like a dinosaur.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a few.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to say, with Tonali, I think a big part of why it's fixed some of the issues they have is because they play with quite a flat midfield three out of possession, and often the number 6 has to do a lot of jumping up ahead of the 8s, which is quite unusual. And I think when they were using Guimaraes to do that, that he doesn't have the mobility to be able to make those jumps and then get back. Whereas I think Tonali, like JJ says, he is. For me, he is just a pure pretty much a pure out of possession player, but he has the mobility and the attack and the physicality and the tackling ability and the as JJ said, this ability to recognise danger, which makes him really good in that situation.
Danger indeed. Well, let me tell you, Newcastle United, top of the form table. The form table there, that's 5 wins over the last 6 games. Very impressive. The only other team to have won 5 in the last 6?
Liverpool?
It's not Liverpool. They're third on the form
Forest?
table. It's Forest. Yeah. Forest have won 5 of their last 6. Liverpool have won 3 of their last 6, but they've drawn the other 3. Arsenal up there too. 18th in the form table.
Tottenham Hotspur.
No, Tottenham are 17th. Bless them. 17th there. That is 4 losses in the last 6. Their last victory was 5 games ago. It was a 5-0 victory over Southampton, but I feel like everybody beat Southampton 5-0, so it almost doesn't even really count. They could be lower. Couldn't they?
Meanwhile, Manchester United have turned a corner, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
that's how the narrative works. Now, the thing about Tottenham, I keep thinking, John, is I have no clue how good they are at all. Whenever I watch them, they could come out and they could win 5-0 as discussed, or they could lose 4-1, and never does their performance leave me feeling any more secure about their actual level of quality. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are quite a tricky team to read at the moment. Weirdly, I've been doing a lot of reading about Jose Mourinho recently.
That is weird.
And I've been reading one of the big things that the guys who developed this concept of tactical periodization, which is the approach to coaching that Jose Mourinho. That's right. Yeah, nice. Yeah. You know your stuff. A big part of what they're talking about is like the concept of complexity versus simplicity. So a lot of what Jose Mourinho is doing is trying to develop a sort of principle-based approach for his players, so that you can put them on the field and they can make in his words, make the best decisions. Mm-hmm. And if they make the best decisions, then they will realise the coach's tactical plans on the pitch.
Sure.
And this sort of complex approach is often contrasted to what they will call maybe a more mechanistic approach, which is, you know, the automatisms of someone like Antonio Conte, right? Yeah. Where it's like player A passes, in these scenarios, player A passes to player B passes to player C, player D makes this run, and oh look, a goal results from it.
Yeah. And then you rerun that exact training, you play it.
Yeah. You do it over and over and over again. It becomes a habit for the players, and you often, a really good example of this is the Conte's 3-4-3 at Chelsea. They would use Azpilicueta as a right-sided centre-back who would step into space alongside Kante usually. And when he did that, that was a trigger for one of the midfielders to make a run across the penalty box line to pull one of the centre-backs, and then Azpilicueta would play the ball into the striker, Morata, and often it would mean that the centre-back had been pulled out of the way, so Morata had a free chance of a header. Yeah. They did that all the time, and it became one of the things that they did.
Can you imagine, by the way, if you worked somewhere where somebody doing something was a trigger for you to have to run? I would be so angry at that person whenever they did that, you know? Kante, Azpilicueta steps in.
Yeah,
I've got
and you're the person who's not even doing like the fun bit, right? Yeah. You're not even running towards the ball.
I'm
doing
just a distraction over and over again.
But that person is very important a lot of the time in football, and I don't think we talk about it enough. The person making a run that is not ever going to be used as a passing option. But
well done, Rasmus Højlund.
To bring it back to Postecoglou, I wonder whether or not there's an element of what's happening is sort of mechanistic in his approach, because obviously for Conte, those automatisms became very useful. They scored a lot of goals in that way. But the problem is
they also got found out.
They get found out, right? And I think that I'm not wanting to say that Postecoglou has been found out, but I do think that a lot of the upside that he gets from his system is developed in a fairly mechanistic way. So, you know, the fullbacks, everyone's like, he uses inverted fullbacks, and sometimes they jump into the third line of build-up rather than just the second line like you would expect with most inverted fullbacks. In many respects, I think the the structures stay very much the same as they would if, because what happens is one of the central midfielders drops out to where you think the fullback should be. So you have a lot of positional rotation, but actually I think the structures end up quite similar. So, and I think what we started seeing this season is a lot of teams just being way more bold against Spurs and being like, yeah, you've got all of these positional rotations, we're going to find solutions for those. And as a result, in some games where teams are quite brave against them, they can just look very uninventive.
Yes,
and then in other games they will generate huge amounts of upside through these rotations when teams can't deal with them. So I think maybe that is partly to explain,
might be the explanation,
why in some games they look unbeatable. In other games you just look like they're never going to generate anything.
Well, to tie it back to something you were saying before, JJ, that was interesting, you said you've been watching a lot of Scottish football and you've noticed that it takes a lot longer for Scottish teams to adjust to other teams' tactics. We know that Big Ange, what's his name? Ange Postecoglou. Ange Postecoglou came to Tottenham from Celtic, a place where perhaps the teams are a little slower to adjust to those automatisms. Like, would he? Is he going to get found out quicker in the Premier League?
I don't know. So when I say it takes longer for them to react to it, I mean, like, players don't seem to react. I don't think there's as many in-game changes.
In the game, okay.
Yeah, so because I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that Scottish football managers are all idiotic.
I thought that's what you were saying.
No, because a lot of them go on to do really good things and are very talented.
So it's not like when we're not recording and you're saying they're all terrible and
I know that's just why I say in private, but I'm glad this bit won't be on the podcast.
No, this bit's not going to get on.
So in terms of being found out, I think it's not like... I think what you'll have is that every analyst and coach who's on the opposition is going to look at what teams are doing and work out where you can stop them playing and where your strengths are going to be against that team. And Postecoglou is trying to put a group of players together to play the way he wants to play and keeps doing it even when it doesn't work, because eventually he'll have the players there, I think, so that he can do the things he wants to be able to do. However, I think now that there's just so many tactically fluent and quite advanced takes from different coaches and analysts around the entire of the Premier League and Europe, that the advantages you get from your unique tactics are less and less, and you have less time with them. And in Scotland, for example, Aberdeen, who won 13, 14 games in a row, remember, and everyone was talking about them, haven't won a single game in 10 and have lost, I think, 6 in a row now.
I saw that, yeah. I laughed. Sorry.
It is quite funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
It's part
just because you were so happy. Every
great,
day,
yeah.
And I know we talked about it on the podcast a lot, listeners, but every day after a weekend, JJ came in, there was a little zhuzh in his step. It's gone now.
Well, it comes and it goes.
It's gone because they're lost.
Yeah. But a lot of that is people worked out what Aberdeen were doing and they just adjusted their tactics to combat it, and then the players aren't good enough really to get around it yet.
You should stop telling everyone on Twitter what they're doing. I think that's...
I can't be me. If I've noticed it, then the people who are actually good at their jobs
may well
noticed
be.
it a while ago.
May well be.
But Postecoglou, what do you want me to say about him?
Oh, nothing. I want you to stop now.
Okay. I like Lucas Bergvall. He's nice.
What I want you to do is play with me the Midway game.
Oh, good.
Which we're going to play over the course of this commercial break. Not for the video people, but we are going to have to cut anyway for video now, so that they can't. What we do during the Midway game can't be revealed.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I thought the video people might see what we do.
Come back in a second. Yeah. Oh, nobody's won the Midway game again. What a shame.
John was close.
You were very close. Yeah? Alas, what are you going to do? Well, a very quick meander then, as it is, into Brighton 1 Arsenal. Quite a fun game also, that one was.
That's not what you were telling me when you were watching it.
No, actually, it wasn't fun at all. That's the one that wasn't fun. I was furious at that game. Very boring. What I was thinking of was Fulham-Ipswich. That was a fun game that I wish we had more time to talk about. Alas, we probably don't.
Alas, it's a game involving Fulham.
Yeah, Ipswich played someone. I can't quite remember who that was. Instead of talking about how Arsenal are incredibly boring to watch all the time, all day long... let's instead play this game. It's the Yeet a Ton of Money Transfers game. And today I'm the contestant, JJ Bull. We're going to play this game throughout January if today goes well. And what you're going to do just now is you're going to judge whether or not what I say is a yay or a nay in the Yeet a Ton of Money transfer game.
And the context is whether it would be a good idea for the team to do it.
Not
whether it's possible in the realms of
I think
finance.
So. But based on the name, it's yeeting a ton of money, okay? This isn't necessarily a sort of like a transfer, a sensible transfer game. This is a yeet a ton of money transfer game, would it still be good in the realms where it's probably a little bit inefficient? Okay, and based on Arsenal's performance this weekend, and of course over the last 6 months or so, my contender for today's yeet a ton of money transfer is, why do they not just buy Isak from Newcastle? It's like, yeet a ton of money. Is there a better example of a yeet a ton of money transfer? Yay?
Is there a better example?
I don't know. That was kind of two questions. One was, is it a yay? Two was, is there a better example? I mean, it just seems so obvious to me.
A better example, do you have a really good left winger and they get Vinicius Junior from Real Madrid?
Right.
Or Kylian Mbappe, we solved 2 problems for them.
Yeah, that doesn't feel realistic though, does it?
No, you didn't say that. You said it was just yeeting a ton of money. Also, Isak's going to cost them about 150 million. It's also not realistic.
No, that's also probably true. But it feels more realistic because he lives closer.
If they'd signed him from Dortmund,
yeah,
then yes.
Okay.
Or Sociedad. Where'd they go? It was Dortmund first, then Sociedad, wasn't it? Yeah.
Just to be clear, are you giving me a yay or an A?
I think he's amazing. I don't think it's exactly what Arteta wants.
Sure.
Weirdly,
but what about me though? Is it a yay or a nay for me?
You want me to give you points for naming the best striker in the league?
Yeah,
you think Arsenal should buy him?
A ton of money transfer game.
You're just saying that if they spent money on Isak, it would improve the team.
It would be good.
Yeah,
because it seems so blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Is that kind
it
of
would be worth yeeting a ton of money?
I like the idea. I'm just trying to work it exactly and nail it down.
So am I. We're working out live.
For me, the concept is,
it's a feeling
if the player was offered to your club for 100 million,
sure,
you just straight up, you don't even think about it, you just pay the money.
Yeah, even if it's not totally efficient because you have to yeet a ton of money instead of just a half ton, you just do it anyway because it's just so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when Man United used to buy a really good player in the summer, like Rio Ferdinand for 100 million or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yay.
Can I
say yay?
I don't want to say yay.
Why can't you say yay to me?
Because I don't.
Is it because I riled you about Aberdeen?
No, I don't care about that.
No,
it's a yay from me.
I think I brought it up.
What about, can I get a yay from you, Steve Hankey?
Yay.
And what about from Rachel? Can I get a yay from Rachel? Yeah. Well, that was a big yay.
Do we?
So what, Pedri?
Do we need to explain the word yeet to anyone, do you think?
I don't think so. I don't want
asking for the person who Googled it before this speech just started.
Certainly don't want to. And also, I think you're not a good judge, Steve, of anyone. You are one of the lamest people I've ever met. I really enjoy your company. But
it's both too young and also dated at the same time.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the young version of it, we all know
they don't
what
use that.
means.
Yeah, that's lame.
But the the very, very old version of it, of course, I believe was to plant a trowel in a mountainous volcanic soil.
Someone mentioned that you mentioned that Isak isn't what Arteta wants. I've got a list of who Arteta does want, because this is all of the players that he's signed in the front 3 positions
since he's been
at the club.
Yeah, go on then.
Leandro Trossard.
Good player.
Raheem Sterling. Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I like Kai Havertz.
Gabriel Jesus.
I mean, at the time it felt so right.
Willian.
Yes.
Marquinhos.
He's a young lad, potential.
Young.
Yeah.
That's not that many, though, is it? Because when you look at the number of centre-backs that have been signed, or players who can play at centre-back, which I believe is 11, to have only signed 6 players to play across the front 3, I suppose it's because they have Martinelli and Saka and they haven't really needed to spend any money.
You start your defence first, you become really hard to play against, and that gives you a big advantage of getting... I mean, he knows what he's doing, obviously, because they've done quite well over the last few seasons, as we've all probably noticed.
Yeah.
I do feel as though they could maybe, this summer, have just been brave enough to buy someone in that front line, but I guess they brought in Raheem Sterling.
Well, there's no way of knowing that Saka would possibly break down, having played every single possible second of football since he was 14 years old. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we'll come back next week for more yeet a ton of money transfer game, and it won't go in a specific order of contenders.
Will the next one be Bruno Guimaraes, by any chance?
No. It's about a feeling. Okay? As long as you genuinely, authentically have the feeling of yeeting, then you can bring that yeet suggestion to the game. But if you don't feel it, we don't want to artificially create.
You're creating a T-shirt slogan for merchandise. Feel the yeet.
The yeet a ton of feel the yeet. Just got that written on my bedroom ceiling.
It's a picture of you as Che Guevara with "Feel the yeet" below it.
That's right. That's right. If you don't like the yeet, get out of the kitchen. That's the kind of thing that would be written on my my thing.
That's a
you can't stand it. It's if you can't stand the yeet.
If you can't feel the yeet.
Yes,
Surely
if
if you can't
stand
feel
the
the
yeet.
yeet, you'd be fine to stay in the kitchen because
If you can't
feel
the
it.
heat, get out the kitchen. It would be a weird thing to say.
Well, don't they say if you can't smell, what is it when you're
What
in
the
danger?
rock
is cooking.
Something about gas. I can't remember. Some gases are odorless. Mine certainly aren't. Yeah. Now, listen. Where are we going? Where are we going now?
Brighton?
To the wheel.
Oh,
Brighton.
Points are bad.
Points are bad. There's so many different places to go. Let me just do the wheel quickly. I just want to do one quick wheel, Steve, okay? It's only going to take 30 seconds, Steve.
Sure.
Okay, a quick spinning of the wheel. Do you remember last time we were here? Guys, we put all a bunch of topics on the wheel, and then we spun them.
I like the wheel.
We're going to spin it again. And it's spinning now. Takes a long time to spin, Steve.
Is that topics from this week, or is it all others?
Shush.
Okay.
No questions. Celtic won a trophy, but it doesn't really matter, JJ. What does that mean?
Well, it kind of applies to the last 15 years or so, I think, actually. But
Right.
yeah.
Which trophy did they win?
They won the Scottish League Cup.
Does the Scottish League Cup really finish before Christmas?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really.
What, are there only 5 teams in it?
No, all of Scotland competes in it.
How does it finish so early?
Because just have it early is like a nice little prize.
Right.
Do you know there's only 12 teams in the top division?
I did know that.
So there's fewer.
The Scottish League, the function of the league, not the function, I understand the function of the league, sorry. The way the league works is so confusing.
Why does the country exist at all?
I've been trying to scratch
It's
my
not
head for
that
years.
complex, is it? They all play each other twice and then they split it in 2.
You play each other 3 times. After
3
33 games, 32 games or 33, I can't remember.
You split the
you
table
split it,
in half.
and it makes it more exciting. So that
Yeah.
rather
I'm
than-
not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
Just because it takes longer to explain than everyone plays each other twice.
It's not as confusing as the Belgian league, though. So
Oh, the
there's
Belgian league
that.
is very confusing,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, to be clear, I would have loved it personally if Aberdeen had won any of the trophies that Celtic have won over the last 15 years or so.
Of course.
But they did win that League Cup against Rangers. This was from December, obviously. The random generator has done us well.
Yeah.
So well done to Celtic and all the winnings and the huge financial gap you have over everyone else in the league. They should win everything always. That's what I mean by that before you get annoyed, Celtic fans.
Okay, fine. Right, let's play instead now. Points are bad. Welcome to Points Are Bad. Now, Points Are Bad, it was good lord, it was a tricky old festive season. You'll remember Uncle Damien replaced Seb last time out. We gave him a call, and the 2 fixtures that he suggested were Sunderland against his beloved Norwich and Tottenham Liverpool, which is a game, the result of which has scuppered all of our Christmas hopes for Points Are Bad.
Even me.
Even you, because it was one time where you didn't go with the spirit of the game. In fact, the closest predictor on the Tottenham-Liverpool game, which the result of which you'll remember was Tottenham 3, Liverpool 6, was Uncle Damien playing for Seb, who predicted 1-4 in favour of Liverpool, so not too far off. Incidentally, Uncle Damien did better than all of us for that reason this weekend. He added only 6 points because he predicted a 2-1 victory to Norwich. I believe Sunderland won that game 2-1. So that puts Seb up to 80 points. JJ Bull, you and John shared second place with 7 points added each.
That's okay.
Not so bad. You're up to 81 points overall. And John?
I got perfect score on the Sunderland game, which means I picked up all 7 points on the other game.
You did, because your prediction for Liverpool-Tottenham was 2-0 Liverpool, which, whilst right in spirit and sentiment, very wrong mathematically, and therefore you've added 7 points. Just pausing for a second if you want to double-check my maths there and complain.
That's all right, I've checked it too.
Seems fine. Okay.
Steve is now here as the VAR to your...
That's true, except he hasn't done any maths yet, has he?
I'm not sure that's a comfort for anyone now.
And I, unfortunately, lost this game week, playing it very safe with 2 1-1s. It was the worst week ever to do that. I added 8 points. Good Lord. So final scores, or not final, but overall scores as they are right now. JJ 81, Seb 80. There's a bit of a gap breaking now. John 72. I'm on 65. So I'm still very, very far ahead, okay? You've got some catching up to do. There's only 4.5 months left of the Points Are Bad season, guys. You know,
that's a lot of 1-1 draws, isn't it?
That's a lot of 1-1 draws.
It's a good job some of us play for the spirit of the game to make it entertaining, you know? Yeah. Like Postecoglou, like he says, aren't you entertained?
That's true. Postecoglou very much is the spirit of the game, Points Are Bad football manager.
I think so, I like it.
Right, I've got 2 games for you this weekend to predict from. One of them, an overseas game, in honour of my visit there. I would like to recommend that we predict for the Bundesliga clash on Saturday between St. Pauli and Frankfurt. St. Pauli and Frankfurt.
That is a Zweite Bundesliga game.
Are you writing that down, Steve?
I'm writing it down.
I am.
That's
I've had already.
I was just checking because that's your function here.
Eintracht, Frankfurt, yeah?
It just says Frankfurt.
Okay.
It's also it's a second Bundesliga clash.
The second?
Yeah, they're in the division below, aren't they? Oh, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're in the Bundesliga.
How embarrassing
That
for
is
you.
embarrassing.
How embarrassing. Look at your camera. How embarrassing for you. Come on now.
I've embarrassed myself.
Of course, you know also on Sunday that Arsenal play Manchester United in the FA Cup. So that's quite a big fun game to predict for us. And that's the other one that I'm going to pick. So I'm predicting
Is that
first
Arsenal?
Yes. I'm predicting first as a loser of this week. With St. Pauli Frankfurt, I'm going to say... I wish I wasn't predicting first. I'm going to say 2-0 to St. Pauli. That doesn't sound right. And for Arsenal, Manchester United, off the back of an incredible performance from Man United, I expect an inexplicable failure at the weekend now. So, despite the fact that Arsenal can't score any goals, I'm going to say they're going to win that game 2-0.
Wow, 2-2-0s for you.
Yeah, 2-2-0s. Well, 1-1 wasn't working out for me, was it? Now, between the two of you, JJ, overall, you're behind, so you get to pick first here. Let's begin with St. Pauli Frankfurt.
I think it will be...
Just to clarify, are you spirit of the game again, or are you taking it seriously now?
I always take it seriously. Sure. I just play within the spirit of the game. As you will know by my answer for Eintracht Frankfurt versus St. Pauli, of two teams I know a lot about. And so I will say...
John didn't even know what league they were in, so I think you'll be fine.
Yes. That lad Marmouche plays for Eintracht, doesn't he?
For now.
For now. I like him. All right, I'm going to say 3-1 to Eintracht Frankfurt.
Okay, fine. And what about Arsenal, Manchester United?
I don't think United will score. I don't think Arsenal will score, but that's boring.
And it's FA Cup, isn't it? So
Yeah.
don't they have to?
4-3 to Man United.
Raucous laughter from the control booth there.
That's what I live for.
Yeah, no, I like it. All right, fine. That was it. 4-3 to Manchester United from JJ. John, what about you? Let's say
0-2.
Frankfurt, St. Pauli.
No, oh, is it that way round?
Is it St. Pauli, Frankfurt?
I don't know.
What way round did I say it was?
You said it was St. Pauli Frankfurt first time round.
Let me check. It is St. Pauli, Frankfurt.
It's in Germany, right?
It's in Germany.
Yeah.
Just to double check.
Just make sure.
No, it's at the Millantor Stadium in Hamburg. That's
Genau.
right. So you think Frankfurt are going to win that game 2-0?
Yes.
Okay, so 2-0 Frankfurt from John, and then Arsenal, Manchester United. There's a lot available.
There are. I will go with...
Stop hiding your mouth from
You
the
know
camera.
United will turn up because it's a big game, so that's adds to it.
I
Maybe.
think there's two rules to follow with United. One is that they turn up when it's a big game, but two is that immediately after a big game they don't turn up. So it's quite hard. This doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
They
But
also
you have to lean
turn
one
up
way or
and
another.
still get lucky, right? So sometimes they turn up and they still deserve to lose. So it's like...
Sure.
So those are all of the options. There's literally
Yeah.
anything. I'll go 1-2.
1-2 to Man United.
No, 2-1.
Oh, 2-1 to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly.
John's become a grumbling mess in the corner. I don't know what's happened. But remember that your camera's there. You know,
I don't...
you just keep hiding your
care.
entire face from the
Well,
camera.
that's
all.
fine for them, isn't it?
No, it's not fine.
Why not?
They want to look.
No,
upon
they
you.
don't.
No, they do, because people enjoy that feeling of horror. It's why they go to the cinema to watch scary films. Yeah,
Fair
they
enough.
don't go to the cinema to watch scary films and then get stuck behind a massive athletic logo the whole time.
Oh, it's
That'd be
almost
awful.
like going to a football podcast expecting them to talk about football and then them not talking about football, isn't it?
We've
so
talked about football the whole time today.
that is,
We have.
it's not the best example of an episode where I could level that.
Steve
Charge.
Hankey, I would like Rachel in the control booth to be Seb this week.
Good day.
Thank you, Rachel. Now, Rachel, will you give me a prediction, please, for St. Pauli Frankfurt?
Well, I am going to go for a cheeky
Don't stand on ceremony. Come now.
3-0.
3-0 St. Pauli.
Yeah.
Wow, you don't know what you're talking about, do you? Now, and also, what about this one? Let's go with Arsenal Manchester United.
2-2.
Yeah, fair enough. Now I think Rachel does know what she's talking about, because 2-2 feels like it could be very, very believable after a weekend of 2-2s.
And feel spirit of the game, eh?
It does feel spirit.
I like it.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel, for standing in for Seb. I think Rachel's the 15th person to do that so far. And do you know what, Seb? He's still doing better than you, JJ. So a conglomeration of people with no ability to communicate with each other or help each other in any way or have any kind of strategy are still better at this than
What's
you
it
are.
called? Wisdom
The
of the
deep set.
crowds or something.
Wisdom of the crowd?
Well, isn't that
Wisdom
like
of the mob.
the masses? Isn't that just when there's loads of people on it, they average out towards a good decision rather than like each week one person?
Yeah, and
Doesn't
whereas the
quite work,
outliers all
right?
die.
Yeah.
It's the deep Seb. He just represents everyone else is pulling the strings.
The deep Seb. Yeah. All right. Well, that was Points Are Bad. We'll be back next week with more Points Are Bad. Until then, I think that's the end of the episode, isn't it? Right. So I'm saying goodbye now to JJ Bull,
See you later.
John Mackenzie,
Bye.
Rachel Tinde. Bye. And of course, old Steve McQueen over there. What's his name again? Steve Hankey. That's it. There he
Goodbye.
is. I forgot who he was. I'm not that interested.